Do-Rag Wisdom here on this Y2K 16.10.14, and I want you all, while you're watching this commentary, to look at my left eye. I want you to keep your eye on that left eye, because you'll notice it does a lot of weird things. I was born with what they call lazy eye. I forget the scientific name for it, but I was born with this condition, and my parents ill-advisedly had me operated on when I was, like, before I was even 5 years old. I was dealing with eye operations that were, you know, for a kid, and you don't explain it, going into an operating room when you're that age. So I'm suffering from somewhat of a post-traumatic stress. And between those eye operations on the left eye and growing up with my crazy parents, we're both suffering from some very severe mental situations. I consider myself pretty much of an expert on what mental illness is and what it looks like, because, you know, part of that made my life pretty chaotic growing up in that situation. Having to wear glasses and then not being good in sports, having crazy parents. By the time I got to go into school, I had a lot of social problems. I mean, I was terrible in team sports. I mean, I could climb up a mountain. Like, I could go, what I mean by that is I used to go up to the Griffith Observatory, because I grew up in Los Angeles. So I used to go up to the Griffith Observatory all the time. I either go up there by bike or by just walking up there, hiking up there. And it's not that I wasn't physically able, I was just bad in sports. So between my bad eye and my bad eyes, the glasses, and bad in sports, and not being interested in automobiles, and I like monsters, and I like to read The Time Machine if I could. When I was 10, I tried to read The Time Machine, and I did successfully, but, you know, it was not easy. H.G. Wells. So I got to meet bullies, and bullies plagued me throughout my entire childhood. And basically, when you graduate into the work world, you continue to deal with bullies of all stripes. Now, I hate bullies, and I've been affected so much by them. I mean, even my father, in his own way, was a bully. And now here I am at 66, and the unthinkable has happened. Well, I'm not surprised. When I say the unthinkable, I'm not surprised. Because when we nominated and elected our first African-American president, that made a lot of people in this country crazy. They went nuts. I'm talking about the old-fashioned KKK Nazi murderers who've been trying to undermine this country for 8 years now, especially 8 years now since President Obama has been in office. Their titular leader is the birther guy himself, Donald Trump, who spent the entire 8 years of the Obama presidency trying to undermine our president and everything he tried to do. Don Trump has now made bullying acceptable, socially acceptable. I mean, not to me, but to his vicious, ignorant followers. You out there? I'm looking at you. You're out there. Let the eyes off here. You know, you can make fun of that now. The bullies used to make fun of that all the time when I was growing up. It was a very, very depressing situation. So in any event, now we got this bully running. A bully who reminds me, eerily enough, of those slime that I used to have to deal with when I was growing up. And now I hear that bullying is up on school campuses because he's made it acceptable. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say to you that we have a great, great, great country. Our country's already great. But it's always had, throughout its history, the bullies, the warmongering, hate-mongering, greedy, a lot of them rich, powerful, who have nothing better to do than to try to undermine everything right that this country stands for. I mean, it took a long time for us to develop a social safety net. At one time, there was no such thing as a social safety net in our country. People did not have Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They did not have unions. And this evil part of our country, this dark side of our country, represented by these rich, selfish, greedy turds, they did all they could to make as much money off of the poor, off of the beleaguered, the lonely, the desperate. Didn't want to pay them anything and didn't want to take care of them, didn't want to pay for their health. And this mentality of hate, racism, anti-Semitism, check out the Nazis on Twitter. This is what's the norm today thanks to the Trump campaign. I will never call a bully president of my country. And as a Jew, I will never allow any hateful, violent, dangerous fanatic to do anything to hurt me or mine. They're not talking about revolution in the Trump campaign. They're talking about civil war. And that's exactly what's going to happen if he wins. There's going to be civil war. So I say, if you want the bully in charge, that's what you're in for. The darkness and death that only a civil war, a tragic civil war, can bring. On the other hand, if Hillary Clinton doesn't win by a landslide, and believe me, she represents the corporate bullies that have destroyed the Democratic Party, and we could talk about that another time, but that's who she represents in her own right. But at least with her, we'll have a country to build on. The progressive movement will have a country to build on. But with the other, there'll be nothing. Ashes, dust, shadows, corpses. Take a look at pictures of Nazi Germany after Hitler was thrown down. That's what you want for our country. Let the bully be in charge. So sad. That we're still naked apes and we still love the violence of bullying. Hence the Donald Trump candidacy. May it rot and fade, and bullies too. Do-rag wisdom. Watch this space.